in which we are now reaching for something more profound, deeper in our own beings, deeper in the universe. Obvious shifts. For example, in this group, many of you are shifting from identifying with that feeling towards the universe of my job is to master and control my environment, shifting to my work is to hear and flow with and be a part of my universe. Now that's an entirely different ego structure. That is a shift in consciousness. That is the answer to the ecological imbalances that come from man's intellect attempting to control nature. That's called in Chinese philosophy the Tao, the flow, the harmony, being in tune with. Being an instrument of the universe instead of a master of it. But what a humble ego to be willing to do that. If that were Henry Kissinger, he would have to listen instead of just sending. That's the difference between a politician and a statesman. That's the difference between a knowledgeable person and a wise man. We are collectively in training to become wise persons. A wisdom that is going to be reflected in our beings. Our actions are going to reflect these shifts in consciousness that we are about at this moment. Now, actually, who you are has another level of significance that some of you will find difficult to hear, others will hear comfortably. And it concerns issues of reincarnation and karma, of who you are. See, at one level, you think you are somebody sitting in North Miami Beach High School. And you think you are a man or a woman or a boy or a girl. Or some mixture. But you have so many levels of identity, so many levels of identity. Why do you pick that particular reality to cling to? Because it's being fed by your senses and by your thinking mind. Until your eye is single, until you only see with the third eye, you are hooked on these eyes, these ears, this nose, this mouth, this skin, these thoughts. And that creates which reality. And they're all tuned to a certain frequency. And on that frequency, you are sitting in North Miami Beach High School. But who I see you to be is, for the most part, very different than who you think you are. I've been through the example many times. Many of you have heard the example, but it's such a vivid image that we can repeat it and work with it. It's a good one. It's the one of the flipping of the switch by the eyes, your perceptual apparatus, your receiving set. See, if you tune into a channel, let's say channel 2 on your television set, your eyes. What you see when you look out at the world is the physical reality. You see man, woman, big, little, old, young, dark, light, bald, hairy, developed, undeveloped, mole, bent nose, this, that, whatever. If you're preoccupied with that in yourself, that's what you see in everybody else. If you think you've got a funny looking nose, what you notice when you walk down the street is everybody's nose. It's bizarre. If you think you don't have the right clothes, all you notice are people's clothes. The physical reality. If you are horny, what you notice in all people are who's makeable, who is a competitor with you for who is makeable, and who is irrelevant. Okay? And that's the reality. That's what you see. That's watching all the girls go by in the street, or the boys go by in Ms. Magazine. One more.
What's up, everybody? Got a real special ZnZerna for you today.
Now when you look at another person,
I'm just gonna hop right into it.
what you see
This is a remix
is as if two mirrors were placed facing each other with nothing in between.
And
You see
I just found
itself
the track
looking at
really
itself,
juicy with
looking at itself,
samples.
looking at itself.
got
Infinite.
vocals in a couple of places.
For you have
and
moved
I'm really
a
excited to be
plane
working with it.
of the ancient
Also,
one, of the one,
month,
where there's only
so
one
we
of
got
us
Ram
here.
Dass on the tape machines.
In that reality, there is one of us here talking to itself.
Off screen, we got
We
Ram
are
Dass
making
coming through these
believe we are the
pedals.
many.
We got some drums
We
over
are
here.
playing as if we're many, so we can
Samples and
play out this
pianos.
dance. We are all in drag, because when you rip off the mask, there's only one of you. Right? And I am
And then
talking to
some
myself.
drones and some other random bits coming from sampler on the iPad.
Now, the minute you left,
a
this
couple different
psychological, the
viewpoints.
minute you left that second channel,
It's good to have you in
went to
my
the astral
studio, the
plane,
Dust
you
Cat
immediately
Dream.
left
Welcome aboard.
North
My
Miami
name's
Beach
T.
High
Burnem,
School.
and this is the ZnZerna Music Hour. I assume y'all already know what's going on, and that may not be the case. So, this is the ZnZerna Music Hour. My name's T. Burnem. We got a couple other things.
Which of these realities is you?
Tap. Some
Who are you?
jellyfish
Who do you
because
think
those are
you
really
are?
popular. And
We just complete the game. We'll just go one more.
bridge views.
One
In
more
Richmond,
thing.
they're live, so we'll watch the sunset
You disappear.
and hang
I
out.
disappear. The television receiver disappeared.
Okay,
We have just entered into the formula.
so yeah, I got it all.
Called
I got
the
some
void.
things chopped up.
Not
It might
nothing.
get a little rough, especially
something.
towards the end. We'll see what happens. I also have some bass coming
These
out of the
are all
synthesizer and some lights rigged up.
Relative
No objects tonight.
realities.
It's been a wild week.
Physical, psychological,
Haven't
astral,
really talked to you
soul,
since.
predicament.
I haven't really talked to you since I did Spaz Fest, and it was an absolute blast. It was crazy. Greenville really showed out, showed love. We hung out. It was kick-ass. It was great. You need a little beef on the mic? How's it going, Barry? Yeah. Let me get that mic up. Here we go. Okay, cool. Yeah, I hit the road with 1 Infinite Zero, and we did Spaz Fest, and I did a show in Richmond, and then we've got Cerebus Compound in Fayetteville this Saturday.
Well,
Yeah, it was a pretty good show. Lieutenant Headtrip did his thing, and the locals all did their thing. It was great. Made some cool friends on the local scene. really an excellent time. But I think hopefully in spring we're going to be heading up north more. But yeah, Spaz Fest was absolutely off the chain. Also, Barry, you know who Andy the Doorbum is probably. But if you don't, Andy the Doorbum is just incredible. We saw him, me and Arielle saw him with a couple other performers, and there's a lot to talk about. Maybe I'll do a little more talking about it later in the episode, but wow. Andy the Doorbum was incredible. Jaguar Dini was really, really a lot of fun. It was just overall a great time. Earthbender crushed his set. It was packed in for Earthbender's set. Real high energy. Great time. Great time.
Of grabbing at things that are in time, playing they are comfortable with. Now, what is liberation in that context?
Cerebus Compound, and then we got Winston-Salem coming up too on the 19th. Yes. Hype did play as a new outfit, the Wave Generators, and that was exciting. His stuff with Nisaj is, I think, pulling even some new rap styles out of Dan, out of Hype. So it was exciting to be on stage with him. I kind of flubbed my verse, but I pulled it through with the energy. Nobody really noticed. I probably shouldn't even say anything, but there was some tripping over some things. It was a lot of fun. I think he's planning on doing more shows as the Wave Generators, though. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Like the
Great
example
show.
I gave, I think, in The Only Dance There Is, where I visited my brother who was thinking he was Christ, and the psychiatrist who thought he was a psychiatrist. Right?
Well, what do you mean? A safe space.
Convinced the other one was insane.
Haha. Yes, I know.
But the
Right.
insanity
All right, on board the Dust Cat Dream. I mean, I'm the captain,
is
so
any reality.
anybody disagrees, I could just
didn't say
crash the
functioning
ship.
in any reality. I said clinging to any reality. A conscious being functions in all reality. Can't you have your astral identity and your physical identity and your psychological identity and your spiritual identity? And your identity is the one? And your beyond identity? All here and now? That's what the game was. Would John Morley call his house, please?
All right, Barry. So, yeah, Wave Generators, Earthbender doing his set. Jaguar Dini played at Purgatory Place.
Are in an evolutionary sense,
Excellent hosts.
is somebody
Ryan
who in his
O'Doon
very lifetime has begun to awaken
runs this thing called
of a limited reality.
shoot. I'll get to it in a minute. It's a festival, and we're gonna play it in October, but it's not in DC. It's in Greenville again.
You think of the image of a clock,
I'm just blanking on the name.
12 o'clock, perfect harmony in the universe, perfect flow. The metaphor you can work with about 12 o'clock, Garden of Eden. About 12, and everything else. There is no separateness. Even God, for you can work with.
Let's fucking go. Love you too, Josh. What's up? It's been cool hearing the mixes that you've been doing.
In opposition to Eden. Eden brought multiple.
It's tight that we can keep doing our thing.
And brought multiple. For you can work with. About 12. Work with about 12. About 12.
I'm gonna be playing, I think, some shows up north in October as well. I'm real excited. I'm talking to some cool folks. 2024 is looking exciting. Hopefully I'll make it far enough. You know. You know. Working that hell out. Working that hell out of oneself is, for some of us, one of the priorities. You probably won't be able to hear it, but my friend down in Greenville, North Carolina, we visited a bunch of ducks and goats, and I picked up this big ass blade. It's a tiller blade. Used to be a tiller blade. It's now sort of gone. Here we go. Maybe you can hear it through the mic. Maybe not. But it's got heavy resonance. It's really excellent. Clang! It makes an enormous clang, and I think I can hook it up to a solenoid to really get it going. It's a screwdriver, actually, Barry, but yes.
Garden of Eden.
I really love Ram Dass's stuff. I really love Ram Dass's stuff. And this 1 3-hour talk that he's got is enough to even fill your mind for a long time. But he's also got this really great story about Hanuman, who's the monkey god, which is sort of like God incarnate on earth. The hand of God, you know. That I probably want to do. Maybe I'll do that next week. So a lot of exciting material. I've just been informed by the computers that my babe is just arriving home safely, so it's tight.
Self-consciousless flow. From 12:01 to 5:59. Birth after birth after birth after birth. You are born into your separateness again and again and again, and each time you spend your life trying to optimize the control with your separateness in order to re-experience what you had at 12 o'clock, but still keep your own sense of separateness. In other words, you want to be God of your own heaven. That's what somebody in Miami Beach wants. To be God in his own heaven. The way he wants.
All right,
5:59.
I do want to say, I felt like the eclipse was cool and all, but it really, more than the eclipse even, I felt like this eclipse was a perfect example of how things, no event can happen now without being branded, hyped, and merchandised. It's like everything will forever be that until something happens.
That it would take an oxen to walk in one day.
And that's kind of crazy.
It's 6 miles long, 6 miles wide, and 6 miles high. And every 100 years, a bird flies by the mountain with a silk scarf in its beak. And it runs the scarf over the top of the mountain. In the length of time it would take for the silk scarf to wear down the mountain. That's how long. Birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. If you want to get a little sense of the time, just look at how many times you've blinked your eyes since you walked in here. Those are like lifetimes. It's just the time change, time shift. This whole thing you're involved in, this is the big one, right? You've said that for the last 10,000 of them. Okay? This is the one I'm going to do it, right? Just one more pizza. And there it is. Another birth, another pizza. Start another dimension this evening. For those of you that know these words of birds, sit straight and just breathe into your heart and keep rising from the energy in this room, right? Let the words flow in and out. You don't have to turn off that reality to do the other thing, but you can go beyond the words here too. The words are to keep the intellect calm, so another process will go on. 6 o'clock, despair. I have tried every strategy I know in order to master the universe and be in control of it and recreate the Garden of Eden, and I can't do it. Despair. Despair is the prerequisite for awakening. 6:01. Right in the middle of the birth, you began to awaken. Now, why do I say in the middle of it? Because between births, you have awakened each time, only to go to sleep again as you took birth. But often you resisted the awakening between births. See, a person that's, say, at 7:30 or 8 o'clock, who's already awakening during a birth, is different than somebody at 4 o'clock who didn't awaken at all during the birth, who denied all awakening. It was the 85% who said, I never want to have that experience again. The person at 4:30 dies. They're dying. They say, save me, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. Do whatever you need to do to keep you from dying, and then they're dead. And a moment later, a voice says to them, welcome. And they say, if I'm hearing a voice saying welcome, I guess I didn't die. And the voice says, no, you did die. For a person at 4:30, utter confusion. That confusion can last until the next birth. It's called purgatory. 8:30, however, you're dying, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. You still don't want to die at 8:30. You don't not give a damn until around 11:15. At 8:30, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. Save me, you're dead. Well, I guess I didn't die. No, you did die. At that moment, those moments of awakening you had during your previous birth suddenly flick over into figure instead of into background, and you say, far out. all that stuff that happened to me was real. And then you're wide open, and then you are a collaborator in the preparation for the next round. You work with the cosmic, karmic council. In the realm of the astral Meshuggah. In planning the next day. But there are more surprises in the story, yes. So as you get up near 11 o'clock, you're working out all of your karma and you're awake during most of your birth. Get to 11:59. New choice. 11:59. At that point, you can merge back into, give up the last vestige of separateness that's left, which is merely the thought of I. That's all that's left, thought of I. Or you can push against the final merge and stay informed. And why would you stay informed? Not because of your personal desires anymore, because you don't have it. You stay informed because of what in Tibetan Buddhism is called the Bodhisattva. You stay informed because of the suffering of all sentient beings. That's what a guru is. It's a being who is staying informed in order to relieve the suffering of other beings. 11:59. Where are you? 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, you're at least past 6 o'clock when you would be in this room. 7:30, 9, 10:30, quarter 12. Are these moments on the clock births and deaths? Could you go through the entire clock in one birth? There is no fixed time, no timeliness. It's the karmic clock. And the final realization at 11:59 is that the entire clock was an illusion. For at that moment, path and pilgrim and goal merge into one. And you see that the entire clock was within the illusion of time. When Buddha says you already are the Buddha, meaning you already are fully enlightened, you're merely busy thinking you're not. And the entire sadhana, the entire path is the path of awakening you out of your illusion of separateness to acknowledge who you already are. Thus, nobody teaches you anything. They merely remind you. And that what you are seeking is not out there. It doesn't lie in me as opposed to lying in you. The only difference is that I'm not as attached to who I think I am as you are. The act of meditation is the act of transcending your models or molds of who you are. To recognize yourself. What is it you want this lifetime? What is it you want? Somebody at 4:30 wants more pleasure. Somebody at 8:30 wants to return to the source, wants to know God.
So you might see me messing with the stuff up here and nothing's really happening with the sound, but what I'm doing is I'm adjusting the lights on the fly. My system allows me to treat these modular signals as lighting signals instead of sound signals if I want. This is what I'm doing.
At 8:30 recognizes Buddha's Four Noble Truths, that the cause of suffering is clinging or attachment, and says, help me free myself from clinging and attachment so that I might end suffering. Let me be free. At 4:30, you try to optimize pleasure and minimize pain. You try to get high and avoid the low. At 8:30, you say, everything in my life, the highs and the lows, are all grist for the mill of going home. I will eat it all. And it's even farther out than that, because at that point, your suffering becomes functional for your awakening. Your suffering literally becomes grace. That's a heavy one. At that point, when you get caught in anger far out, it's showing you where you're clinging, and you're more interested in getting done with clinging than you are just getting free. Then you are ready to take life as it comes towards you, without defining this but not that. I want a new Cadillac, but I don't want cancer. By 10 o'clock, you're ready to say, new Cadillac. Cancer. Life. Death. Pleasure. Decay. Because all of it is seen only in relation to that television channel in which the soul is going home. And everything on all the planes is risk for the mill in the process of awakening. You use it all. And your life at this moment is an absolutely perfect statement. Perfect. Most of you sit around saying, if only, whatever. If only I were 20 years younger, 20 years older, richer, poorer, more beautiful, a different sex, whatever. If only. By around 9 o'clock, that's all over. You're looking at just how it is and saying, tomorrow. Well, what am I going to do with this one? Now, this is where it becomes very delicate. Because as you keep flipping these realities, is this too heavy, or can you hear me? I'm sorry it's so heavy, but it'll be clearer. I'll get lighter after a while. It's just, I don't know why. It's whatever this vibration. When you are busy identifying with your suffering, You are a tremendously socially concerned human being because you look around and you think of all the suffering and your empathy is very great. When you shift these channels a little bit and you ultimately look up and you begin to see all of the forms of the universe in perfect harmony with one another, and you begin to experience the perfection of the flow, including the suffering, the violence, the starvation, etc. At that moment, you look at the universe and you say, from your great height high in the Himalayas, you say, it is all perfect. Now, if you stop in that reality, you can be very, very high in the Buddha mind, but you forgot the bleeding heart of the Christ. The liberated being is the being who simultaneously is looking up and seeing the perfection of it all, and looking down and seeing the blood and the snow, and seeing the suffering. The balance is that you, as an incarnated being in North Miami High School, North Miami Beach High School, must honor your incarnation in order to be free. You cannot deny it, and your incarnation is as a human being living among many human beings, most of whom are suffering and bearing. That balance, the balance of the Buddha mind, of seeing the emptiness of forms and the perfection, at the same moment, keeping your heart wide open to the suffering in the universe around you, and using your incarnation to alleviate suffering. That is the balance that is the state of liberation. If you get so high that you're walking down the street so high that somebody trips and falls and you don't bother to help them up because after all it's perfect, you forgot God in form. If you're so busy helping the person up on the street that you forget at that moment the perfection of the entire dance, including the fall and helping, you forgot God in the formless. It's a tough path to have the strength to keep it together in form and formless, to relieve suffering and to work with suffering. See, how you deal with suffering depends on the level of consciousness. The example that I've used before, if somebody comes to you and says, I am a yogi, I would like to do a fast, and I am healthy, and I say, all right, fast for 9 days. And they come to me at 7 days and say, I'm doing fine. I say, great, go right ahead, fast some more. If I then walk out on the street, somebody comes up to me and says, hey man, I haven't eaten in 7 days, about a quarter. I don't say to him, you're doing fine, proceed. Right? There's the quarter. Because his level of consciousness, he's busy suffering. The other being is using the suffering to awaken. It's the same thing, they both didn't eat for 7 days. One person is busy being the person who didn't eat for 7 days, and another person is being the person who's going to God. No judgment. One person's at 4:30, one person's at 9 o'clock. You don't judge that a person that's 40 is better than a person that's 20. They're just 20 years older. The beings around you represent different ages of incarnation. Your parents, your children, your brothers and sisters, your friends, all different. All different. For a moment, you might meet in the journey and then spread apart. No matter how hard you try to grab the hand, it can't happen because you are at different levels of the dance. You have different work.
I bet you what happened.
I knew you were watching Revolutionary Recordings, but I'm glad to hear from you. We should talk soon.
And experience with some compassion his predicament of being unable to express his love, or to be unable to be the kind of father that you might want. It's as if once you know that you're beautiful, acceptable, then when other people don't like you, it begins to see it as their problem, not yours anymore. Until you have allowed your own beauty to be, you never see it as their problem, you always see it as yours. And all paranoia you take back in on yourself. So the first step of the game is what you've started with, which is acknowledging your desire for life. As long as you're straight with your feelings, then if people can't fulfill them, sure you go through self-pity and anger, and you have to be honest with those too. But you'll begin to appreciate that they're just doing their karma, they're stuck in what they're stuck in. And you'll sit with your feelings and allow them to be who they have to be. And your life will be that of somebody who needs love and doesn't get it, and you go through self-pity and then you say, no, and here we are. But to make believe you don't want it because you're not getting it, here's where the trap is. One dies as one lives. Mine. Press conference, he gets shot, and at the moment he's shot, just the name of God, he just has time. This is the name of God. Where's he going? Because he's already with God through his life's work. That the moment of transition of body to not body is just another moment. So once that starts to fall into place and feel right to us, then really the essence of a dying retreat becomes the essence of a living retreat. And then the question is how you use the experiences, the moment-to-moment transition of your life. To become optimally conscious, to be optimally in the spirit with God. And so then you start to examine the various components of life in order to bring them into this same awareness that we're just talking about now. Because what you find is that you can agree with everything I've said, but the big chunks of life are totally unconscious. which you say, oh yes, I understand this, I understand what my life is about, but you know, I'm really angry at so-and-so. And somehow that anger and that relationship never comes into the rest of it. It just stays in this little compartment. What happens to a relationship when you understand that the meaning of the events and the experiences of your life is to awaken or to live in the spirit or to be fully conscious or with God or in your own true being? And you say, yes, but I have this relationship because I need love, or I have this relationship because... But if you push this and push it, you see that ultimately everything must go into this same stew, and you have relationships in order to awaken. You have relationships in order to live in the spirit and to be with God, to awaken out of the illusion of your own separateness. And that's the real essence of relationship. It's the vehicle for awakening out of the illusion of separateness. And when you understand the integration of this higher wisdom with the daily life events, you begin to see how relationships are a form of devotional or dualistic. They're a form of yoga. They're a form of coming into union, which is what yoga means. Now, what you see in other human beings is very, very much affected by your motivation and by your perception of yourself and by your own preoccupations. If you are busy, if I say to you, who are you? And you say, I am somebody. You see other people in terms of who's living and who's dying. If you are somebody who doesn't like your body, you are inclined to look at other people's bodies. If you are somebody who is preoccupied with your own personality, with your own depression, for example, you're inclined to look at other people in terms of their happiness. Why can't I be happy like she is? If you have a very judging mind, in which you're judging yourself continually, then you see other people as judging you all the time. You tend to project outward what is familiar to you, which is the way you look at the universe. You assume other people are looking at the universe the same way.
Thanks, Barry.
So that if you are preoccupied with...
It's going better than ever this year.
Sexual desire, sensation.
And actually, Revolutionary Recordings was one of the very first to support the ZnZerna Music Hour when it was a little baby. I'm so glad to know that you've been enjoying it.
And by the same token, if you think that you are God and you see God in yourself, transition of body.
Okay.
I recall when I was
Try to keep it rolling. I like what's going on.
So inadequate and so unworthy that I would continually say to him, how can you send me away? How can you send me back to the United States where people are going to want things of me and I can't fulfill them? I'm not a Dharma person. I'm a totally impure person. I've got all these lust and this power trippiness and this insecurity. What are you doing? You're just sending me into the lion's mouth and you're giving me no protection. You haven't given me anything to protect myself from my own impurities. I said, the worst thing I can imagine is that I can do damage to another human being, that I can. The worst thing I can imagine that I wish to another. And he looked at my hair and my head, and he looked at my eyes, and he looked, and he came up really close, and he looked like it. And then he he had me turn around. And I turned around and he looked in my ears and he looked like he did this whole routine. It was a Marx Brothers routine and he did the whole thing.
And then he turned around.
I don't see any fear.
And then he turned around. He had me turn around. And then he turned around.
And of course
He looked around. And then
because I obviously, any fool can see my impurities. Did you see any fool sees their own foolishness?
What up, footbags?
He didn't see the it was my
Good to know you're in the building as well.
He had me
And you know, I'm doing all this with the stem tracks from my babe's song, Arielle Bryant's Thoughtform. And I feel like I want to do like tribute tracks, long form tribute tracks. Still have to flesh out the idea, but this is so much fun.
In every relationship will be suppressed, will be dependent. He had those are all power. That's because your preoccupation with power because of your feelings of inadequacy. The way the mind works is often to develop concepts and then to develop concepts rather than experience. So that you develop a concept of who you are, who another person is. And then you live in terms of the relationship between the concepts rather than in the immediate experience that exists between two human beings. For example, if you experience yourself as being a wise person and somebody else as being unwise, and you're caught in that label, then even if they say something wise, you can't hear it because you're so caught in your labeling.
There actually is definitely an Arielle Bryant solo album in the works. And a collab album is, I feel like, inevitable, but will probably happen naturally.
Attachments in ourselves. And if you need those things, then you're attached to them. For example, if you need to be a nurse, if you're a nurse and you need to be a nurse, then you need to have patience. And then you load somebody into that symbolic package of patient in order to satisfy your need to be a nurse. If you need to be helpful, then you need people who are helpful. If you need to be sadistic, you need people who are masochists. To the extent that you identify with any social role whatsoever, then you will seek out somebody to enter into a symbiotic relationship.
Oh,
You scratch
allow me to
my
take
rose
this
and I'll
opportunity,
scratch yours.
Barry, to tell you and anyone else who's interested in it.
I am somebody
My babe killed it at Spaz Fest. Arielle Bryant crushed the stage. There was a small technical difficulty at the beginning between me and her and Dan. Like, the crowd didn't really know about it, but it was like, whoop, cross the fingers that everything works out. I was worried about, her being stressed out. As soon as she started working the neck of the guitar and going in with the vocals, it was incredible. There's a lot of footage floating around from Spaz Fest. And she covered Early Eve of Your Rising. And she did it so well that I did not do it. I was like, that's all that needs to be said about that.
Oh, God, I got screwed again.
It's been tight.
And when you look at the world in terms of this kind of symbiosis at the personality level, you see this incredible game going on. Conscious, unconscious human relationships. There's a comic book called the Doctor Strange series. And in the Doctor Strange series, the way you see it in the comic book section is people come down the street and they have these huge nets coming out of their head. And these nets are full of statements like, this is who I am, this is who you are, this is how it is, this is who I am, this is who you are. So somebody goes down the street like this is who I am, this is who you are, this is how it is. Somebody else goes down, this is who I am, this is who you are, this is how it is. Somebody else goes down the street like this is who I am, this is who you are, this is how it is. And the game was to net everybody all the time. See, and the nets would come and they would surround other people and everybody would climb into them. And it's extremely interesting to be around people who have so much symbolic value that they are used to netting everybody around them. And then they really need somebody who isn't netted by it. If everybody gets caught in your game, you lose. Do you hear that one? If you win, you lose. And that's the horror of it. That's the horror of it. The way the mind creates these models and then seduces everybody into them. Because you feel secure in the model. But it's secure in your prison room, and that's the horror when the door is open and you don't walk out because you're too secure. Well, how might you see other people? How might you see individual differences in other people? There is the matrix of individual differences of the body. So when you look at another person, you see man, woman, tall, short, old, young, fat, thin. You see physical characteristics, you see bald, you see pretty, you see weird looking, you see whatever you see. Those are all the qualities of the physical body. If you look at a matrix of individual differences in terms of personality, you see sad, happy, achieving, depressed, lonely, dependent, joyful, seeking God, intelligent, acting. You see a whole set of another set of individual differences that are within the personality matrix of them.
And then he around.
That's two matrices. Then there's a third matrix, in which you look out and you see others.
Matrix. Third matrix. Third matrix. Third matrix. Third matrix. Matrix. Which and there and the third matrix. Third matrix. Third which third matrix. A third matrix. Third matrix. Third matrix. Third matrix. Third matrix, third matrix, third matrix, which again, third matrix, which and there is the third matrix.
Another ray of God, or you can call it whatever you will.
Matrix. Third matrix.
All of this stuff, which is the package.
Third matrix.
everybody else around you, and that ends up in judging. This person is a better mother, or better or this or less good, or taller or shorter, or darker or lighter, or good or evil, or whatever your polarities are. To look and see in another person that other thing that's just like you means that you can look at the individual matrices as the karmic unfolding, and then you can get into a space where you do not judge another being. You may judge their actions, but you don't judge the being. And that is the realm in which unconditional love can exist. I love you because you are God in form. So what is the essence of conscious human relationships? If you look at any relationship as like a pyramid in which there are 2 points down here and there is one at the top, take a marriage. The vehicle of marriage, when you use marriage as a sadhana, as a spiritual practice, the way in which you use it is to work through the relationship in order to arrive at the place where there is one awareness, but there are 2 bodies, 2 personalities, 2 astrologies. In other words, you work until the relationship exists where there is simultaneously the one and the 2. And you use the 2 to arrive at the 1. And it gets so that just as these 2 hands are clapping, and there is one line and these 2 hands, and this hand isn't busy being the left hand and this busy being the right hand. They are just 2 hands doing their part to make the clap occur. So there is one awareness and 2 people. Now, to use a relationship that way, that is the process of what I started the lecture by saying, using relationships in order to awaken to God. To see who the other person is, see who you are, you yourself are, through the relationship. For a relationship to do that requires a tremendous amount of consciousness and space and meditation and intent. And it is hard work, as most of you who have never been in intense interpersonal relationships have found out. Because in that one, in order to realize the oneness of the 2, every bit of identification you have with the 2 has to be given up. You've got to give up the 2 into the 1, and then from the 1 you will be the 2. It's the difference between I am a man versus I am God that is being a man. You go from an identity with the 2 into an identity with the 1, and out of the identity with the 1 comes the manifestation into the 2. It's a cycle that has to go in. But what happens is, as the 2 go towards the 1, you are literally dying into love, you are dying into awareness, you are dying into the oneness of it. And that oneness is called love, or it's called awareness, or it's called truth. And because of our attachment, our karmic attachment to our separateness, when a marriage or a relationship starts to work too well, we freak. And And what you usually see in relationships is they end up being one person is running away, pulling back, and the other person is open. I love you, why aren't you there for me? And the other person's pulling back. Then, after the other person's been like this for a while, they say, well, screw you. And they start to pull back. And the minute they pull back, the other person starts to remember how much they love them. And they start to go. And you see the dance going like this, and it doesn't really matter who's playing what part. It's just so that it's a conspiracy to keep from falling into love. Because when you fall into love, you cease to be. So a conscious relationship has to edge in very slowly and very consciously. And it's why one needs so much meditative space in a good relationship to keep it living true. Because usually when the fire gets hot, what happens is everybody starts to get singed a little bit. Ego gets burned. Ego burns. Soul doesn't burn. Ego burns. Ego starts to burn. The minute it starts to burn, it immediately pulls back into kind of mechanical habits. Hello, good morning, I love you. Do you know how much I love you?
Okay.
So all can be done. All the rituals can be done, but there's no juice in it anymore. The living truth went out of it because everybody got scared.
I'm thinking.
And I'd say most of the couples that ever come to see me that are having a hard
wind it
time,
down,
they have
destroy
the
it as
potential
much
of
as I can.
incredible living truth, but they got frightened and they pulled back. And then
It's been lovely having y'all. In fact, let's go through the thank yous right now. Oh,
and the whole process is opening it up once again. And the way it is opened up is by wanting to have it open so bad.
Thank you to my DigiCats.
Willing to deal with the truth of
Thank you to my Zona Cats. Erica P.
and the truth of it
Melissa
all,
Schick.
and stay
Kenny
in it.
Creech. Gerard Soltz. Ring Cat.
And be able to sit with another
Also
person
Wayne
and say
Anderson.
what you feel and what you think. And not
Also
say,
Austin
I won't
Avalanche
tell her
Snell.
this because it would hurt.
My
That's the one that
Dusty
corrodes
Cats.
relationships.
Eric Akers. Mama Cat
The
Sam
result is I
Seeger.
will keep it to myself. And
Austin
the minute
Cat,
you
Scarlett
have something
Herrera,
in yourself
Austin,
you will not share to me, with
Jen
me,
Dudley.
I
Dogbook
become
just came
him.
through.
I am no longer
Viz,
us.
what's up?
If you and I agree we were
Mikey.
us together, we're going towards the one.
I'm gonna get you
we
in
are
next
us.
week.
But then I start to have, say,
It's good to have you on
sexual
board, Mikey.
desires
And
of
last but
someone
not
else.
least, Royal
I don't
Blue.
want to tell you that because it might hurt you.
Barry,
It will
thank
hurt
you
and you get furious.
for everything.
So I say, well, I won't tell
Tapes should be done
you that.
soon.
The minute I do that, I have set up a part of my mind which is now closed off to you.
I'm excited about what
And every
the
time
future
I open
holds
that
for
part of
this
that mind,
show.
you must become an object. You are no longer us. You must be her or him. And if there is nothing that I cannot share with you, then you and I are us.
Yes.
Like somebody's taking care of you,
Okay.
and you really are.
I could
a
just
little
listen to
angry
this
that
all
they're
night.
doing it,
I might do
or
a little more listening after I'm
you
done
wish
with
they
the
would
stream.
stop, or you wish they'd do something, or you'd like to ask them to do it, but you don't want to tell them because you fear you'd be an imposition. So the result is you say, "Oh, well, I won't tell them that. I'll
yeah.
just keep it inside myself."
But I guess that's it
And the
for
other
tonight.
person,
I'm
if they
gonna
are sensitive,
crush
just
it up.
feels like when I sit
See
with
what
another
happens.
human being, I can watch, I can look into their eyes, and I can see. I'll tell you what I see. I see that when their mind is in a place where everything is wide open, there is a liquid, luminous doorway in their eyes, and I can look in and in and in, and I can see Maharaji. And the minute the thoughts come into their mind, which they can't tell me because they're about me or about them or something, that is that place that walks in where I become object, I see an opaqueness. And it's just as if a door closed and a big sign says, keep out. And I get this cold feeling, and the result is I get paranoid. I mean, that's what people do. They get paranoid. You feel unloved. People don't understand how sensitive relationships are and how much living spirit demands living truth and how volatile living truth is. And what price you are paying for keeping it nice. the niceness between somebody who is being a patient and somebody who's being a nurse, the niceness between a husband and a wife, the niceness between a parent and a child. And I'll tell you, we cannot afford so much niceness because we are dying. And most of you, if you are like me, starve to death in that environment because you're so hungry for a living truth in human relationships. So when you are ready, what you offer, you want to be out of your own prison cell, what you offer other human beings is the work you do on yourself. And the work you do on yourself is to come to the point where you are no longer identified with your individual differences. So all of your stuff and all of your stuff of your fears and aggressions and sexuality and embarrassments and all that, that's your stuff, which is connected with those matrices and individual differences. You are no longer identified with them, so you want them, you can have them. You want the fact that, I'm perfectly willing to tell you that I have hang-ups, that I'm insecure, that I'm paranoid, that I've got perversions, that I've got everything. You want them, you can have them, because I can't afford to keep them from you, because I need that flow with everybody around me, because that's the way I can live in the spirit, because the spirit is that flow. And the minute I turn off that flow in order to protect myself, because I identified with my perversion or my anxiety or my anger or my insecurity, I just turned off the world. I stopped the flow. I froze it. It all turns, it calcifies. It becomes an institution. And suddenly we are just bumping against each other. Don't get too close. Don't come in. Don't play. So what do you offer someone else? You offer them your truth. You offer them the irrelevance of your stuff. You can't imagine how refreshing truth is. When you are working with somebody and you're taking care of them and you're begrudging that time to them, or you're begrudging because they're taking too much space, and you keep it in, all you're doing is creating your own ulcer, your own early death, and you're also destroying the living truth that exists between people, and you're cutting off the person from real human contact, and you just did it again. It takes a little bit longer, and it's a little more painful, and it's kind of volatile to deal with truth. And the thing is that you cannot deal with truth with other people who don't want to deal with truth. That's the problem. The distinction isn't that you have to tell everybody everything. The important thing is that you have to be able to tell everybody everything. Okay? And that's the key one. You may meet other people with whom you've entered into a contract where you are willing to share everything because it's a living marriage, a living truth, a living relationship. Then you share everything. But otherwise, you merely have to have the capacity to be able to share. As far as you're concerned, the stuff isn't it. Then you are an open, free environment, and the other person can come and play if they choose. And can you imagine what it is like to be nursing, being a nurse in relation to someone in which you are really right here, and you're free, and you're flowing, and you got your stuff, and you get angry, and you get all that stuff, which you acknowledge, and it's right here. And if the other person says, how are you feeling about taking care of me? You can say how you're feeling if they're really asking. But you don't have to go up and say, I really can't stand taking care of you. You don't have to do it. That's the psychological thing. You don't have to. You gotta listen to hear who other people are, and each person has to give what they gotta give.
That's the something.
Let's stay in their prison. You have all obligation. Leave them in their prison. No right. Leave them the moral obligation in their prison. You have the moral obligation to leave them in their prison.
You have the moral obligation to leave them in their prison. You in their prison. You have the moral obligation in their nation. The moral obligation in leave them in the nation in their prison. In their prison. You have the moral obligation in the prison. Leave them in the prison. You have the moral obligation to leave in the moral.
You have the them in their prison. You have the moral obligation to leave them in their prison. You have the moral obligation to say it all. In their prison.
Some marriages are vehicles.
You have the moral
Some are
obligation to leave them.
marriages that are going through which were based originally on friendly cultural expectation of these two people. And those motives come from the passion. Some marriages are into the truth of the spirit, and then the marriage but it may be a nice marriage and a comfortable marriage, and then meditation becomes your major vehicle for it. And marriage isn't that. Everything in your life ultimately will be affected and colored by your spiritual work. But you start out working with what is workable. You don't start out demanding that everything be used immediately, because it isn't all usable immediately.
You have the
You have the moral